Okay, I know for sure that at some point I'm going to get red lipstick all over my braces, and if that happens, we just ignore it. Hi, welcome back to my channel. Also, I got a haircut. What do you think? Leave me nice comments below. So, for today's video, I have a bone to pick with someone, and that is one Miss Colleen Hoover. I've only ever read one Colleen Hoover book, and that was for my TikTok book review video that I did sometime last year. It was It Ends With Us. And the thing about that, and I think I said this, I'm not sure, but I've had a bit of time since last year to think about it, because I don't think I found it that bad. There were just a few, like the ending, I was a bit like, The thing about that book is I think it took me a third of the way through to realise what I was reading, because by the cover alone and the blurb, I think, you wouldn't be mistaken in believing that it's just a romance book, but it's not. It's about domestic abuse, and I didn't realise that until a third of the way through when he abused her for the second time, because the first time I thought, oh yeah, it sounds like he just pushed her because he was worried about his hands. That could happen to anyone, you know, push someone out the way quickly to get to a tap, to, you know, you're a doctor, he was a surgeon. He had an important surgery coming up. He burned his hands. She was laughing at it, and he pushed her out of the way to run his hands on. Well, I read that bit. I was like, seems reasonable. Like, you're in a state of panic. You're burning. You push someone. Have you ever been burnt? I have. I used to work when I was younger, I worked in a fish and chip shop. And one day when I was like doing the shovel thing to get the chips out of the chip place, the guy I was working with decided that was the moment to take the chips hot from the oil and put them in at the same time, and it burned, I think it burnt this, you can't see it anymore, it burnt this, and I would have pushed someone out of the way to get, it hurts, you know. So at first, the first moment I was like, okay, he pushed her and she accidentally like fell into a cupboard or whatever it was. And then by the second time I realised, oh, right, no, okay, this is right, got it. And I didn't get that impression from anything leading up to that moment, you know? So anyway, I found this video in my recommended by Caleb Joseph, and it's about his ongoing feud with Colleen Hoover. So I watched it and I read through some of the comments, and this book, November 9th, keeps coming up. So that's the subject of today's video, going through November 9th. And let me tell you, I am not impressed, Colleen Hoover. Also, follow my new Instagram and I might just follow you back. I think the biggest issue with Colleen Hoover is her books are kind of misleading, because a lot of them are under the genre of romance. This book is under the genre of romance. Romances are meant to have happily ever afters. This book also has a happily ever after, much to my own chagrin. This book normalizes abuse under the guise of he's just romantic and misunderstood, which is a terrible trope in the first place. Now, if this book had been written under some sort of dark satire or toxic romance genre, how much crap can you throw at the MC and still have her end up the abusive lead? Then I would not be here making this video. It is absolutely fine to have complex characters, inconsistent characters, abusive characters. It's fine as long as the narrative also understands that the person in question is being abusive and doesn't just like fob it off. The main lead, Ben, narratively is never seen as a fucked up arsehole. He's just misunderstood. I don't really understand Colleen Hoover's success. The answer to that eludes me. I have seen lots of people say Colleen Hoover books are for people who never had their teenage Wattpad/fan fiction net phase. So I'm going to go with that. Also, there was a scene in which Ben assaults the MC, Fallon, at a nightclub, but it got re-edited for all the new releases and ebook versions. So I have the re-edited version. The assault was never seen as assault. It was just seen as sexy time or something. It's a mess. Anyway, first November 9th. Point of view, Fallon. The point of view goes between Fallon and why is my head, oh my god, it's so annoying. Why is it all staticky? Stop. I wonder what kind of sound it would make if I were to smash this glass against the side of his head. That is how I feel every time I do these book reviews. Fallon, some bloke, nope, wrong, is angry at some other bloke for something. What is it? Who knows? Or even better, who cares? I stab the hollow part of an ice cube with my straw, imagining that it's his head. What am I supposed to say? I mumble, resembling a bratty child rather than the 18-year-old adult that I am. Do you want me to congratulate you? 18-year-olds are bratty children.
You need to pretend to be normal people, yeah? Keep the conversation about things that would interest everybody. You know, nothing about memory or RAM.
Memory is RAM.
I made a crucial error already. Fallon is actually a girl. In my defense, I'd never heard the name Fallon before. She's mad at her father for getting a 24-year-old pregnant. She's an actress, but her career peaked at the whopping age of 18. Hollywood sure is mean. I sigh heavily. You're impossible. Now I understand why Mum left you. He gives his head a slight shake. Your mother left me because I slept with her best friend. My personality has nothing to do with it. Loyalty is personality, Jen. The waiter recognises Fallon's father, who is also an actor. I read a study on bacteria in public restrooms once. The first stall in every bathroom studied was found to have the least amount of bacteria. People assume the first stall is the most utilised, so most people skip over it. That is actually really useful if true. Thank you very much, Colleen Hoover. Fallon has scars from being in a house fire. These are her biggest insecurities and a big plot point. Fallon tells us that her father accidentally set the house on fire. She goes to the bathroom to avoid talking to her dad more, and when she returns, she notices some random bloke in a different booth. This guy is the complete opposite. His 5 o'clock shadow isn't a symmetrical, purposeful work of art. Instead, his stubble is splotchy and uneven, like he spent the night working late and didn't actually have time to shave. His hair isn't styled or gelled, given the messy, just rolled out of bed look. This guy's hair actually is messy. Strands of chocolate hair sweep across his forehead. Some of them are erratic and wild. It's like he woke up late for an appointment and was too hurried to bother with looking in a mirror. Such an unkept appearance should be a turn-off, but that's what I find so odd. Despite him looking like he doesn't have one iota of self-absorption, he is one of the most attractive guys I've ever seen. Yeah, he doesn't care about his appearance, unlike all those other Hollywood boys, but he's super dreamy nonetheless. Fallon is moving to New York to try out Broadway, and her dad is not happy about this. What happened with the narrating job, he asks. I'm still with them. Audiobooks are recorded in studios. Studios exist in New York. He rolls his eyes, unfortunately. What's wrong with audiobooks? He shoots me a look of disbelief. Aside from the fact that narrating audiobooks is considered the cesspool of acting, you can do better, Fallon. Hell, go to college or something. My heart sinks, just when I thought he couldn't be more self-absorbed. I know her dad is being a jerk because he thinks her scars will prevent her from getting acting work, but going to college isn't a bad idea. You can still do acting / audiobooks on the side, like lots of actors do, whilst pursuing education. Fallon's dad is getting married in January. Just mentioning this in case it's important later, it wasn't important later on at all. They are bickering and her dad is all like, you don't get dates, which sure is something to say about your own 18-year-old daughter, and then the guy from the other booth comes over and joins them. I stiffen beneath the guy's arm when I feel his lips press against the side of my head. Damn LA traffic, he mutters. Random dude just put his lips in my hair. What is going on? The guy reaches across the table for my father's hand. I'm Ben, he says. Benton James Kessler. Your daughter's boyfriend. This guy overheard Fallon's dad being mean, so he's trying to save a damsel in distress, but this is very forward for someone who is a total stranger. Fallon goes along with it. Donovan O'Neill, my father says. You've probably heard the name before. I was the star of... Nope, Ben interrupts. Doesn't ring a bell. He turns to me and winks. But Fallon here has told me a lot about you. He pinches my chin and looks back at my father. And speaking of our girl, what do you think of her moving all the way to New York? He looks back down at me and frowns. I don't want my ladybug running off to another city, but if it means she's following her dream, I'll be the first to make sure she's on her flight. This guy is a walking egg.
Jack Greenish, and you're like, he's my bubba. Oh, he's my boo. Oh, he's my bubba.
The guys, both of them, the father included, dick swing over Fallon. Listen, Ben, he says his name with a mouthful of distaste. Fallon doesn't need you filling her head with some nonsense simply because you're excited about the prospect of having a booty call on the East Coast. Yes, dude really just said that about his own daughter. I was one of the fastest up-and-coming teen actresses just 2 years ago, and the moment the fire burned away my looks, the studio pulled my contract. Bro, this book came out in 2015. She would be making studio exposed videos on YouTube and get millions of views and success from it, trust me. Fallon's dad admits that whilst he thinks Fallon is still beautiful, Hollywood begs to differ. So Ben mentions Joaquin Phoenix's cleft palate and Forrest Whitaker's eye, which is a nice point. except for the fact that they're both men and Hollywood is more lenient with men's looks than it is with women's looks, but okay. Fallon's father leaves in a huff and Fallon is humiliated. Ben's POV. I seem to have a one-track mind, and that track leads straight to the two things I shouldn't even be thinking about right now. Her boobs. Both of them. I know, I'm pathetic, but if we're going to just sit here and stare at each other, it would be nice if she was showing a little cleavage, instead of wearing this long-sleeve shirt that leaves everything to the imagination. It's pushing 80 degrees outside. She should be in something a lot less convent-inspired. So, this man is delightful. That's probably why she's wearing the long-sleeve shirt. It shields everyone from seeing what's beneath it. And of course, this thought leads me to her breasts again. Are they scarred too? And how much of her body is actually affected? I begin to mentally undress her, but not in a sexual way. I'm just curious. It's in a sexual way. Spoiler alert. I'm just curious. Really curious, because I can't stop staring at her. And that's not like me. My mother raised me with more tact than that. I don't think she did. But what my mother failed to teach me is that there would be girls like this one who would test those manners merely by existing. Yeah, it's her fault that I'm sexualizing her because she's just sitting there, existing. Excellent love interest, 5 stars. She motions to my hair. Your hair is a mess. She motions to my shirt. You're wearing the same shirt you wore yesterday. Her eyes fall to my fingers. Your nails are clean. How does she know I'm wearing the same shirt I wore yesterday? So why'd you leave wherever you woke up in such a hurry today? She asks. I look down at my shirt, then at my nails. How in the hell does she know I left in a rush this morning? People who don't take care of themselves don't have nails as clean as yours, she says. It contradicts the mustard stain on your shirt. Clearly, Fallon should have been a detective. That is some Connor Detroit Become Human shit right there. I look down at my shirt, at the mustard stain I hadn't noticed until now. Your burger has mayonnaise on... Sorry, this is really fucking dumb. Your burger has mayonnaise on it, and since mustard is hardly ever eaten for breakfast, hey, you don't know that, and you're inhaling your food like you haven't eaten since yesterday, then the stain is more than likely from whatever you ate for dinner last night. And you obviously haven't looked in a mirror today, or you wouldn't have walked out of your house with your hair looking like that. Did you take a shower and fall asleep before drying your hair? She touches her long hair and flicks it between her fingers. Because hair as thick as yours bends when you sleep in it wet, makes it impossible to fix without rewashing it. She leans forward and eyes me curiously. How in the heck did the front of your hair get so jacked up? Do you sleep on your stomach or something? What is she, a detective? Believable interaction, average romance dialogue. Ben is taking classes in creative writing as he's an aspiring novelist. Good luck. She takes a bite of her salmon, and before she swallows the first bite, she's already cutting into it again. This is riveting, hard-hitting stuff. I've never had a real boyfriend before, I reply. Her eyes shift to my hair. Believe me, that's obvious. No gay man I know would have left the house looking like you do right now. Okay. I've only read 2 Colleen Hoover books, and in both of them, gay men just exist as stereotypes. I have new winter merch. If you check out ayclothing.tmall.com, you will find the new winter collection, a festive edition of the Die Cry hate line. There are jigsaw puzzles, jumpers, hoodies, and a festive tote bag. And if you're in the UK and make your order before the 21st of December, you will get your merch in time for Christmas. So check out my new merchandise at ayclothing.tmall.com and get yourself some Christmas merch. What's your biggest regret in life, Ben? An odd question, but I go with it. Odd seems completely normal with this girl. Yeah, she's not like the other girls because she skips small talk. They go get yogurt even though Ben secretly hates ice cream, yogurt, froyo, anything to make himself more interesting. So you're a writer. Her question gives me the footing I need to pull my mind out of the gutter. I nod. Oh yeah, she had ice cream on her lips, so obviously he started thinking horny things because, of course. Hope to be. I've never done it professionally, so I'm not sure I can call myself a writer yet. She shifts until she's facing me and props her elbow on the back of the bench. It doesn't take a paycheck to solidify that you're a writer. That is my excuse, and I'm sticking with it. Except, wait, the Piers Morgan story that I wrote, which is on Amazon, go read, I think it's 99p still, made at least a $5. So I guess I'm a writer regardless. In fact, I'm retiring. I'm retired from the writing gig. I did my bit. I have nothing more to say. That's not true. I'm going to start... Did I say this already in the video? I can't remember. I'm going to start writing parody erotica. I'm calling it parodica. I'm copywriting that. No one's allowed to steal it. It's going to be a whole thing, a whole vibe. So I'm not even joking. Be on the lookout for that. So when I was in my early 20s and living in London and super broke because I was living in London, I had the brief idea of writing actual erotic fiction, short ebooks, right? Because there's so many articles out there of erotica writers saying that they were earning like 10 grand, 15 grand a month, but you had to just pump them out consistently, like several times a week, 5,000 words a piece. And I thought to myself, I could do that. I should do that. I'll do it all anonymously so no one will ever find me. It will just be my secret shame. I'll do that. Of course, I didn't do that. Right. And I was thinking about this again recently, but I wouldn't be able to write erotica seriously. I just can't do that. But I could write parody, kind of as a social experiment to see if I can make 10 grand in a month. Wouldn't even be for a social experiment. I just really need the money. But as soon as I started thinking of this, I came up with loads of like weird, wacky, fucked up ideas. So it's so obviously sad. Like no one's, only a proper freak would be getting off. Like not to kink shame, but actually fully, if anyone would get off to my parody erotica, you are a bit of a weirdo because it's going to be fully messed up shit. I'm going to do this. I want my audience to hold me to this. I'm just going through some stuff right now, all right? I need the money. Anyway, Fallon keeps sighing because she's 18 and dramatic. She stays quite dramatic all the way through. Ben is also 18, but he doesn't sound like it. Does she really think that? Do people really not flirt with her? Is this because of her scars or because of her insecurities about her scars? Surely guys aren't as shallow as she's implied. Shut up. They are, yes. If so, I'm embarrassed on behalf of all men because this girl should be fighting off the guys who flirt with her, not questioning their motives. Wow, 18-year-old doesn't realise yet that most humans are shallow. Okay, audience, it looks like I have a spot, right? But it's not. Somehow it's lipstick. These braces are kind of annoying me. Okay, here's the thing. I've got a confession to make, right? So for this round of braces, even when I had the invisible braces the first time round, the bottom set never fully were fully straight. So this time round, with this different treatment, they've filed like 1 millimeter in between some of my bottom teeth, right? So that when they come together at the end of the treatment, they'll all fit nicely. It was horrific. I hate that kind of stuff. I can't stand it. Horrible. Having someone between your teeth going like, doesn't hurt, but it feels violating. I've only had braces in for a couple of weeks. So if I take these out, I'm sure you won't be able to notice because the camera's quite far away, but I feel like without having my braces in anymore, I feel like one of the stumpy veneer freaks. I'm not even going to feel bad about saying that because wait, I did a whole video once on my pet peeves. I never put up on my third channel because I had this long old rant about people who get crowns, yeah, which are now masquerading as veneers, and they get their perfectly healthy enamel filed down to tiny little jagged stumps. Look at the picture of Katie Price, yeah? And I think a lot of things about it. Firstly, it's wild. Secondly, look, if you're just some schmo, what the fuck is this? What does schmo mean? If you're just some schmuck, maybe that's what I meant to say. If you're just some schmuck that got lucky and you appeared on one season of Love Island, yeah, and then you come out and you've got loads of money from having loads of Instagram followers, yeah, and then you decide to get veneers, good fucking luck to you. Because crowns, like I think my mum's top set are crowns, and that's because like one of her teeth got knocked out like way back when, you know? Crowns are having perfectly good enamel, filed away to nothing. It's irreversible, and usually it's if you have no other options. So these people and influencers and YouTubers and whatever who are getting this shit done, dropping like, unless they're going to Turkey, I think in Turkey you can get it done for like 5 grand, 8 grand, yeah. That's a whole thing in of itself. But in this country, if you're dropping like 15 to 20k, yeah, you need to maintain. None of you care about this, but I'm going to tell you anyway, because I just want to talk my feelings. I had a chip on one of my teeth and I had it filled in with composite bonding, yeah, which wears down over time. So I'm going to have to get it redone like every 5 years. Veneers, you have to maintain them for the rest of your life, and it's expensive each time. So my point about Love Island is you better, like, if you've been on Love Island, most likely the fame and celebrity is going to dry up in 2 years or until there's the next crew of Love Island. I see people Made in Chelsea do this as well. They appear on one season of Made in Chelsea, come back, and then they got a brand new set of crowns. They're in a different position from the rest of us though, because they're all like born wealthy, so they can afford the maintenance. But you're also setting up yourself up for loads of root canals and just like jaw collapse, a lot of mental shit. Yeah, your enamel's there for a reason. My point is even though they only took not a millimeter, that's quite big, 0.1 of a millimeter from between my teeth, I feel like I look like one of those stump treatment people. And as I said, that is not me roasting anyone that's needed it as for their dental health as a last case scenario. It's against these people who suddenly get an influx of money and decide to do it. Because I think like either they're not caring about the side effects and the consequences of it, or they're not being told the full picture of what it's going to take to maintain it for the rest of your life. Like, you gotta stay rich, mate. Anyway, I hate it. I feel like Gollum. Never having that done again. Anyway, to make Fallon feel better, Ben says this: I ignore her cynicism and continue. The first time you walked past me, before I interrupted your lunch with date with your father, I stared at your ass the whole time you were stomping away, and I couldn't help but wonder we're all men freaks. What kind of panties you had on? That's all I thought about the entire time you were in the restroom. Were you a thong girl? Were you going commando? Because I didn't see an outline in your jeans that hinted you were wearing normal panties. This is to a random girl that he met 1 hour ago. This is not a red flag at all. Before you returned from the bathroom, I started to get this panicked feeling in my stomach because I wasn't sure if I wanted to see your face. I'd been listening in on your conversation and I already knew I was drawn to your personality. But what about your face? People say not to judge a book by its cover, but what if you somehow read the inside of a book without seeing the cover first? And what if you really liked what was inside of that book? Of course, when you go to close the book and are about to see the cover for the first time, you hope it's something you'll find attractive. Because who wants an incredibly written book sitting on their bookshelf if they have to stare at a shitty cover? Then he just compares women to ugly books. When you walked out of the bathroom, the first thing I noticed was your hair. It reminded me of the first girl I ever kissed. Her name was Abatha. She had great hair and it always smelled like coconut. So it made me wonder if your hair smelled like coconut. And then it made me wonder if you kissed like Abatha. Because even though she was my first kiss, it's still one of the only ones I can remember every detail of. Anyway, so I immediately noticed your eyes after admiring your hair. You were still several feet away, but you were looking straight at me. Almost as if you couldn't understand why I was staring. He is monologuing like a supervillain. I was so relieved, I tell her, because I could tell with that one simple movement that you were really insecure. And I realised, since you obviously had no idea how fucking beautiful you were, that I just might have a chance with you. And so I smiled, because I was hoping if I played my cards right, I might get to find out exactly what kind of panties you were wearing under those jeans. I'm happy you have scars because it makes you insecure enough that I might be able to fuck you. Isn't quite the romantic win Colleen Hoover seems to think it is. Also beautiful despite her scars is another trope. It's like some Mary Sue shit. She's not beautiful because she has scars, because no one's beautiful was sharp. Instead of running for the hills after that little monologue, Fallon decides to invite Ben back to her place to help her pack her suitcases. Fallon POV. There's some stuff about Fallon having a good mum, but I'm not interested in any of that guff. Get to the toxic shit, please. They go to pack, meeting Fallon's roommate Amber and her boyfriend Glenn. Ben gives them a quick wave and removes his arm from around my shoulders, sliding his fingers through mine. Nice to meet you both, he points down the hall. I'm going to follow Fallon to her room now so I can see what kind of panties she has. This is an entirely normal thing to say to two people you've just met and a girl you met an hour ago. I look over my shoulder and he's fingering... Calm down. The book's on my shelf. I love to read. You should hurry up and write a book because it's already on my TBR pile. Your TBR pile? To be read pile, I clarify. Was this book made for TikTok or... Of course I have, but not the kind worthy of a romance novel, so I have no business writing about it. He plops down on the bed and leans against his headboard, watching me. Do you think Stephen King was actually murdered by a clown in real life? I ask him. Did Shakespeare really down a vial of poison? Of course not, Ben. It's called fiction for a reason. You make that shit up. Actually... And I learned about this from Stephen King's book called On Writing. It's called Write What You Know for a reason. The focal point of Stephen King's books are the characters, and he writes characters based upon people he's known. That's why a lot of them are quite salt of the earth types who swear and speak with a certain affliction. And actually one time Stephen King was out for a walk when he got hit by a truck or a van, and he almost died. And then apparently the truck driver was quoted as saying, I was just on my way to go get one of them Mars bars I'd been hearing about on the radio. And Stephen King thought, oh my God, I almost got killed by one of my own characters. In fact, Stephen King says in his own book on writing that if you want to write a novel, like a sci-fi novel about a spaceship, you don't really know anything about space. If you're I don't know, like a handyman, then why don't you write about a handyman working on a spaceship? You know, find a way to relate it back to yourself so it's a bit easier for you to write. Don't just like shit on a page, Colleen Hoover. That's not quite how it works. That might explain it. Right. Ben sits around doing nothing other than being a sex pest and makes them reservations for dinner. Doesn't ask her. He walks around me and leans his elbow against the dresser. If you're packing underwear, that means you don't go commando. So by process of elimination, I figured out that what you're currently wearing is a thong. Now I just have to find out what colour it is. I toss the contents of my drawer toward my suitcase. It takes a lot more than smooth talk to get me down to my panties, Ben the writer. Yeah, smooth talk for a sex offender. I shake my head and grab the dress from him, hanging it back in its spot. I grab one of the few long sleeve dresses I own and pull it off the hanger. I like this one. His eyes fall to the dress he initially picked out and he pulls it off the hanger and shoves it to me. But I want you to wear this one. I shove the dress back at him. I don't want to wear that. I want to wear this. No, he says. I'm paying for dinner, so I get to choose what to stare at. Wow, this is why we need feminism. I release a frustrated sigh. My mother bought me that dress last year when she was going through her Lex Fix Fallon stage, but she has no idea how uncomfortable it is to be in my skin. So please don't ask me again to wear that dress because I'm much more relaxed in clothes that don't show too much skin. I don't like making people uncomfortable, and if I wore something like that, they would feel weird at looking at me. Ben's jaw tenses. He looks away from me, down at the dress in his hands. Okay, he says simply, dropping the dress to the floor. Finally. But it's your own fault. People feel uncomfortable looking at you. Lovely. He tells her that she's beautiful, so she should dress better. And then he just starts undressing her without her consent while she's upset. Because, you know, he knows what's best for her, this girl he's only just met. Savior complex. I feel my shirt being pulled open, and the more of me that becomes exposed, the harder it is to hold back tears. It's the worst time in the world for me to get emotional, but I guess tears aren't known for their impeccable timing. His fingers begin to rise up my hands and His fingers begin to rise up my hands and wrists just as the first tear falls down my cheek. The tear doesn't faze him though. Chills break out on most of my skin as he continues moving his hands up my forearms. Instead of trailing his fingers all the way to my shoulders, he pauses. I still don't dare open my eyes. I feel his forehead rest gently against mine, and the fact he's breathing as hard as I am is the only thing that gives me a sense of comfort in the moment. My stomach clenches when his hands meet the top of my jeans. This is going too far. A guy has never seen her exposed before, even before the fire. She met this bloke 2 hours ago, and he's undressing her to make her wear something he wants because he thinks that's what's best for her. He takes off her jeans too, while she's crying, which is really sexy. He puts the dress on her. Anyway, she ultimately sees this as a confidence boost. In what fucking universe, Colleen Hoover? They plan to meet for their date. He shuts the door, but I can still hear what he says to Amber and Glenn as soon as he walks into the living room. They're red. Her panties are red. Ben's flatmate Kyle questions him on what he's been doing, ominously proclaiming, I know where you were last night. Not worrying at all. Ben has mysterious troubles, but he believes that all of this will magically change because he's met Fallon. Doubt. I walk up to her front door at approximately 5:05 p.m. I'm early, but like I said, she's leaving for New York and I'll never see her again. This was set in 2015. From contextual clues in the chapters, I'm assuming this takes place over 6 years, so I'm also assuming the first year of this is 2009. Facebook was a thing then. It was alive. Phones also existed, so they could keep in contact. This is quite dramatic. Ben goes to Fallon's house an hour early, which is just as rude as being 20 minutes late in my eyes. I see movement out of the corner of my eye, so I glance at the bathroom. She's standing in the doorway. My eyes fall to the dress first. I have to give myself props for picking that one out. There's just enough showing at her neckline to keep me good and happy. How is this not satire? How is this not a Garth Marenghi character.
I love working with women. Well, hang on, let me rephrase that. I admire the women I work with. Let me rephrase that. I will work with women.
But I'm not even positive I'll be able to look away from her face long enough to stare at her cleavage. I can't tell what's different about her because it doesn't even look like she's wearing makeup, but she somehow looks even more beautiful than before. I'm glad I pushed my luck and asked her to wear her hair up because she has it pulled in some messy little knot on the top of her head, and I'm really digging it. I stand up and walk to where she's propped up in the doorway. I lift my hands to the doorframe above her head and I smile down at her. Fucking beautiful, I whisper. This reads like very average fan fiction and I can't compliment it higher than that. I stare up at the ceiling and wonder how this is going to work. How the hell am I supposed to just say goodbye to her tonight, knowing I'll never talk to her again? Facebook, Twitter, Bebo, MySpace, Habbo Hotel, Club Penguin, fucking MSN Messenger. Nudge her, mate. Regardless, Fallon doesn't want a boyfriend nor to fall in love until she's at least 23. She doesn't want a boy she's just met to distract her from her new start in New York, which is surprisingly mature. Good for her. My mother says the majority of people have their lives figured out by the age of 23. Your mother is a nitwit. Guys don't say no to a girl like her, no matter how unappealing relationships are to him. Guys see boobs coupled with a great sense of humour and think they found the holy fucking grail. That's not true. It's just not true, is it? It's just not true. What is this weird wish fulfillment? Come on. You can have boobs, a sense of humour, and be dating a guy for, I don't know, months, and they still want, like, a lot of them still might not want to go exclusive if you, but anyway. We remain quietly in our positions, face to face on her bed. Even with the scars and the obvious sadness in her eyes, she's still one of the most beautiful girls I've ever seen. They lie down together and he touches her scars. I should hate this for you, I whisper, trailing my fingers over the scars on her forearm. I should be angry for you, because going through this must have been excruciatingly painful. But for whatever reason, when I touch you, I like the way your skin feels. Well, as long as you like it, that's all right then, isn't it? Fallon. They fall asleep and miss dinner. Fallon needs to go to the airport, so she and Ben snog. I'm dizzy. I'm so dizzy. It feels so good. My mother is crazy. Stupid. Insane. Absurd. And she's wrong. Why would a girl care to find herself when she'll never be able to make herself feel... Wait, what? Why would a girl care to find herself when she'll never be able to make herself feel as good as a guy can? Have you ever heard of clitoral vibrators? Just wait until you have your first disappointing one-night stand, young lady. Oh, wait, she doesn't. It's like a rite of passage. You've got to have, like, quite shit sex to know when the good stuff is good. Otherwise, how are you going to be able to tell? Anyway, they're groping each other in the hallway and get interrupted by Amber. Ben decides to drive Fallon to the airport. He keeps it soft and concise, and I imagine he kisses the same way he writes. Gentle strokes of the keys, each word thought through and completed with purpose. There is a joke here. Good one, thank you, dickhead, me. What joke? No, they're all vulgar, and you know what? I don't feel like it. Don't feel like it right now. Sorry to disappoint. With kisses like these, I could easily see myself falling into Ben's life and forgetting how to live my own, which is exactly why I need to follow through with this goodbye. It is nice to have a female lead actually have her own ambitions and not throw her life away for a bloke she's just met. Bella Swan, hello. They decide to meet each other on the same day every year for 5 years to check in. No contact in between or social media. It's an interesting enough premise. It's a bit different. But that's it. November 9th is also the anniversary of the house fire, by the way. It's not a relationship though, neither of them are committing to each other, which is sensible. Fallon hates cliffhangers and insta-love. He makes a face. Insta-love? I nod. When two characters meet and supposedly have this great connection right off the bat, he raises an eyebrow. Fallon, I think we might already be in trouble if that's one of your least favourite things. Make sure people laugh at you, at least once a week. I scoff. You expect me to go to an audition every week? He nods. Until you get the role you want, yes. Number 2, you need to date. You said earlier that I was the first guy you've brought back to your apartment. That's not enough experience for a girl your age, especially if I'm basing a romance novel on us. We need a little more angst. Go on at least 5 dates by the time I see you again. Why does he talk like he's 40, not 18? Some creepy 40-year-old hitting on a teen. What about social media? Are we allowed to Facebook stalk each other? He asks. See? Told you. It exists. They block each other to make sure that they can't snoop at each other. Ben drops her off at the airport and she's a bit annoyed that he's not more emotional about it. It's not more of a grand romantic affair. There's the angst you were looking for, love. Whilst waiting in line, Ben appears to slow-mo yell and run after her. It's one of those things that sounds better on paper than it would look IRL. They kiss. It's a 10 to Fallon. It's a 1 to me, and for that reason, Simon, I'm out. 2nd November 9th. Ben. So this is not a sponsored segment. This organisation has no idea I even exist, but I thought, as it's the month of Christmas, let's promote a organisation that I donate to monthly, and that is sense.org.uk. Sense.org helps children and people who are deaf, blind, or have complex disabilities communicate. It helps them experience the world and fulfill their potential. They actually have services, and you can check if there's any services in your area if this is something that affects you personally. If you sign up to donate a small amount monthly, then they send you British Sign Language cards. That is BSL, not ASL for my American followers. They send you cards per month so you can learn basic sign language by yourself. So if you have the means, please consider donating to sense.org this Christmas, either a one-off donation or a monthly contribution to help thousands of people live life to the full. Ben is moaning about writing a book. Honestly, same. He's waiting at the restaurant for Fallon and she hasn't shown up yet. A girl interrupts him to say that a girl on the phone at the froyo place down the street. He goes to the froyo. You get it. It's Fallon being like, oh, my flight's delayed. And this was the. I'm in a cab now and I'm really, really sorry I'm so late, but I had no way of getting in touch with you. Yeah, this is where Facebook would have helped out, idiots. This is not a sponsored video for Facebook, though. I promise. I have not been compromised by Mark the Zuck. They decide to just meet at Ben's. Ben is nervous, naturally. I grip the door handle and pull it the rest of the way open. I tried to play it cool, to not come off as nervous, or worse, excited. I've studied enough romance novels to know girls like it when the guys are somewhat aloof. I read somewhere those kind of guys are called alpha males. Romance writers are in league with the alpha male toxic dating coaches confirmed. She's different. Her hair is shorter. She has bangs. She's wearing a short sleeve shirt, which is something she admitted to never doing before last year. She's covered in confidence from head to toe. It's the sexiest thing I've ever seen. It. Come on, let's go inside so I can find out what colour panties you have on. Sir, can you not? It wasn't funny the first time. Fallon. I wasn't expecting this when he said to meet him at his house. I was more or less expecting an apartment, but this is a fairly modern 2-story house. A house? In LA? Is he rich? Fallon's flight is that night. They have 6 hours until she has to leave. The real question is, how much banging can they get done in that time? They lie on the bed to talk. He looks a lot less like a teenager now than he did last year. And it makes me wonder if, when I see him again next year, he'll look just like a man. Not that there's any difference between a man and a 19-year-old boy. 19-year-old, because they're the same thing. I can assure you there is a lot of difference between a fully grown man and a 19-year-old. 19-year-olds are fetuses. Wow, is he? He is. Ben, I say, narrowing my eyes, are you booksting me? He cocks an eyebrow. Booksting? Yeah, when a hot guy talks books with a girl. It's like sexting, but out loud and with books instead of sex. Nor does it have anything to do with text. Okay, so it's nothing like sexting, but it made sense in my head. He quizzes her about the single guy she kissed all year, Cody, but Cody made her feel unpretty. Stop, he says, when I try to grab for the pillow. He tucks it back onto my head and leans in closer. It's me, Fallon. Don't be embarrassed. Tell me what you were referring to. They've spent less than 24 hours total together in an entire year. What do you mean, it's me? She doesn't know you. Ben wants to write about him and Fallon, but she's upset that he's going to include her scars instead of making her beautiful. So he gives a speech about how lucky she is to be alive, and she starts crying, which I kind of feel like if someone's having a bit of a shit time, like such an obvious apparent she survived a house fire, I kind of feel like you don't really get to be like, well, you should be happy anyway. You know, lots of other people have it worse than you, so your feelings are invalid. You know the old, you shouldn't be sad because lots of other people have it worse than you, which is just a way of invalidating your feelings now. A lot of people have it better than me and better than you. So should I never be happy because out there is some billionaire? Why did my mind intrusive thoughts when some billionaire out there drinking children's blood? No, some billionaires out there on a super yacht right now, surrounded by gack and strippers, like happy as a billionaire on a super yacht. So should I never be happy because there are people who are happier than me? Yeah, it's silly. It's a silly way of thinking. It's just invalidating. Obviously, it's important to have perspective, but she was in a house fire, so I've never been in anything as bad as a house fire and had 30% of my body burnt. They start making out again, and he plays with her left breast that she was very insecure about due to the scars from the fire. This book is smut. So, hey, that's what I said. So many romance books seem to be thinly veiled erotica. I'm going to start writing my own erotica parodies. Parodica, if you will, promise. I'm going to do it. If there's a market out there, if I see at least 10 comments saying they would read some 99p smut from me, I slowly bring my gaze down until I'm looking him in the eyes. You're beautiful. Every inch of you is beautiful. He presses his lips between my breasts and drags them slowly across my skin, running his tongue over my scars. I wait for him to make an excuse to back away from me. This bloke has a saviour complex. We've already discovered this. And I feel that he kind of fetishizes her trauma and her scars a little bit. It's just the vibe I got from this book. Might be wrong. They're interrupted by Ben's flatmate's girlfriend. Kyle, the flatmate, is actually Ben's brother. I missed that part. I only realised up until this bit. I wave and Jordan immediately crosses the room and hugs me. Nice to meet you, Fallon. Don't be embarrassed. It's perfectly normal for Ben to have girls in his room. Oh God, that totally came out wrong, she said, shaking out her hands. It's not normal for him to have girls in his room. Not at all what I meant, she says. I just mean it's nothing to be ashamed of. We're all adults. I wasn't implying that you're one of many. In fact, he rarely ever brings girls here, so that's why I didn't think twice about walking into his room. Because it's so rare, I never thought he'd actually be in there. With you, with a girl. She's pacing now, and every time I catch a glimpse of her face, she looks on the verge of tears. I've never seen anyone in more of a hug than she is right now. Jordan is a fucking idiot. The front door slams and everyone's attention shifts from the conversation about my career to the sound of a man's voice. Where's my little bitch, he calls out. Oh Lord, I hope this isn't the groom. Ian's home, Ben says. He grabs my hand and pulls me to the living room. Come meet my big brother. I follow Ben into the living room to see a man kneeling down by the front door, petting a little white dog. There's my little bitch, he says sweetly to the dog. As sweet as that sentence can sound. Anyway, you leave that dog alone, you weirdo. This is Ben's older brother, Ian. Ben's other older brother, Kyle, comes back and is mad at Ben, so they go off somewhere and almost fight. Kyle punches Ben. It's very random. For a split second, Kyle looks ashamed as if he wants to apologise, but then he blows out a quick breath and turns his attention to Ben. You deserve that, he says, backing out the hallway. You fucking deserve that. Drama. Ben POV. They go to the beach for small talk and getting to know each other talk. I was excited about the idea of having a sibling, she says. I know I acted like I wasn't happy when my dad told me last year, but I've always wanted a sister or a brother. Unfortunately, the girl my dad was engaged to wasn't pregnant at all. She thought he had money thanks to his semi-celebrity status. When she found out he was actually broke, she left him. What's it called? She asks. What's what called? Our book. What's the title going to be? November 9. Wow, meta. Fallon. They decide to go get Ben a tattoo. Fallon asks Ben his favourite colour. Malachite green, and make a face. That's a very specific green, but okay. It's what colour your eyes are. Also happens to be my favourite mineral. You have a favourite mineral? Do now. Who the hell does he think he is? I don't like him. After more getting to know yous, it's almost time for Fallon to go home. They agree for Ben to go to New York on the next annual date. Fallon gets her flight. And then Ben appears on the flight to give her yearly homework goals of shagging some bloke or whatever. He bought a ticket just to get on the plane and get off before it leaves. Yeah, right. I just don't believe it. I know it's a fiction, but I'm not suspending my disbelief for that. Go visit your father. This is the note that he gave her. I know, he's an asshole, but he's the only father you have. And when you told me you haven't spoke to him since last year, I couldn't help but feel at fault for that. So what? I hate it when people try to guilt trip others into seeing abusive assholes just because they're family. Just because they're doesn't matter. Genetic lottery. Get bent. Who cares? 3rd November 9th. We are blasting through this. Amazing. She loved me, in quotations. She kissed me, in bold. I tried to keep her, in all caps. She left, with an ellipsis. Benton James Kessler. Don't give up the day job, Ben. Fallon. Fallon tells us what has been happening. This book is all time skips, which is very convenient for authors. She went out with 4 guys, she's speaking to her father again, and she got a small role in an off-Broadway play. Waiting at the restaurant, Ben rings to say he's still in LA because his brother, Kyle, died 2 days ago in a car crash. R.I.P., I guess. They say they will meet again next year. And I said dramatically, why can't Fallon just go to LA for the night? His brother is dead. The line disconnects before I speak again. I look down at the phone and tears are blowing my vision. I'm heartbroken, crushed, and I'm such an asshole. Because as much as I want to convince myself I'm crying over the loss of Ben's brother, I'm not. I'm crying for completely selfish reasons. And recognizing that I'm such a pathetic human makes me cry even harder. She cries every chapter. Ben. Kyle's wife, now widow, is pregnant. And as much as I wanted to reassure her that I'd be there next year, all I wanted to do was fall to my knees and beg her to come here today. I've never needed to wrap my arms around someone more than I do right now, and I'd give anything to have her here with me, to be able to press my hair into her face and feel her arms around my waist. That rhymed. Her hands on my back. There isn't a single thing in the world that will comfort me like she could, but I didn't tell her that. I couldn't. Maybe I should have, but asking her to come to me at the last minute is more of a request than I could ever make. It is a pretty extreme, extenuating circumstance, though, so you might as well, try to ask her. Why not? Some people called Miles and Tate arrive. No, not that Tate. No idea, though. Apparently these are characters from another book of hers. No idea. Don't care. Ben's uncle arrives to be all, hey, if you want to sell the house, let me sell it for you because I'm a real estate agent. Okay, his brother just died. Calm down. Fallon does show up. Good for her, I thought at the time. How wrong was I? Fallon. They have a hug in his room and he cries. He was on his way back home from work when his car ran off the road, he says. A slip of attention. 3 seconds and he hit a damn tree. He and Jordan were supposed to leave on vacation that night and I'm pretty sure he was texting her when it happened, based on what the police told me. I hope she hasn't figured that out yet. I hope she never does. I quietly begin tracing my fingers over her hand. His hand. She's pregnant, he adds. There's your don't text whilst driving PSA. Goodness sake. It was nice of you to come, Ian says. You hungry? Came up to let Ben know that dinner's on the table. Ben groans as he shoots off the bed. Let me guess. Casserole. Does casserole mean something different in America? Because one of his uncles, nope, his only uncle, ate one of the casseroles and it was like a cold noodle dish, but over here, I'm pretty sure that casserole is just stew. Ben. So is it that the dish, the Tupperware thing is called a casserole dish and you can put like a lasagna in it and then that's a casserole? Please tell me in the comment section below. I need to know. Because in my head, when I read this first, I just imagined that all the neighbours had brought around like 20 different stews. Ben. Fallon chats with everyone over pizza briefly. Ian teases Ben for being in love. They go to his room again. Pointless. Fallon. The older I get, the more apprehensive I become at the thought of losing my virginity. On one hand, I'm ready to experience what the fuss is all about. It has to be great, or it wouldn't be such a huge factor in all the lives of mankind. But that also scares me, because if I end up not liking sex, I'll be a little bit disappointed in mankind as a whole, because it seems to be the root of a lot of evil. So if it's mediocre and I don't instantly want more of it, I'll feel a little bit misled by the entire world. Humans are horny idiots. Most sex is bad because of people's unwillingness to communicate with one another in the bedroom. His eyes drop to my legs again. He begins to speak slowly as if he's reciting poetry. The only sea I saw was the seesaw sea, with you riding on it. Lie down, lie easy. Let me shipwreck in your thighs. His eyes drag up my body until they meet mine. Dylan Thomas, he says. I release a slow breath. Wow, I say. Poetry porn. Who knew? If a bloke did this to me, I would projectile vomit. The only poetry I accept is till the sweat drips down my balls, till all these bitches crawl. I don't like y'all, skeet, motherfucker. I feel his body stiffen just slightly. You're a virgin. He says it as more of a realization than a question. Yeah, but only for a few more minutes. My comment forces him to smile, but then worry consumes his expression. His eyes grow immediately sober and his smile falls into a grim line. He shakes his head softly. I don't want to be your first, Fallon. I want to be your last. I take in a quiet rush of air as his words sink in. He's not even kissing me, and those words just made this moment a 12. I touch his cheek with my tips of my fingers and smile up at him. I want you to be my first and last. He's had sex with at least 5 girls, so this is well unfair on her. I know I just said this, but everyone should have a few duds so you know how good it is when it's actually good. I feel like that's not actually very good advice, but I feel like it's realistic. He brushes his thumb over my lips. I want to be your only, Fallon. I want it more than anything, but it's not happening tonight unless you promise me that I'll be able to hear your voice tomorrow and every day that follows. Fallon promises. I nod again. You can have it. I want you to have it. And my email address. I'll even go buy an all-in-one printer with a fax machine so I can give you that number too. Baby, he says, his lips forming a smile. You have already made this the best sex I've ever had, and I'm not even inside you yet. BRB screaming into the void. His boxers have met their fate on the floor. In an insurmountable display of willpower, he's pressed against me, but still not inside me. Fallon, he whispers, moving his lips slowly across mine. Thank you for this beautiful gift. Her virginity. A little tiny hymen, a thin bit of skin. What a perfect gift. I would prefer a PS5. Just saying. He presses his mouth against my ear and whispers, no combination of written words could ever do this moment justice. I smile between moans. And how are you going to write about it then? He kisses me softly, right on the corner of the mouth. I guess I'll just have to fade to black. And then it does. So self-aware. Oh my God, how meta. After they have sex, Fallon feels like crying yet again. I'm sure it wasn't that bad. Probably was, let's be real. I'm not sure if sex is supposed to make you feel like you've just lost a part of yourself to the person inside you, but that's exactly what it felt like. It felt as if the second we joined together, a tiny piece of our souls got confused and a piece of his fell into me and a piece of mine fell into him. It was by far the single most intense moment I've ever shared with another person. Is this religious propaganda? What is this? Post-coital convo. He runs his nose along my jawline until his lips are at my ear. Well, he continues, I was thinking about some of the things those guys say when they're with a girl. The ones we said we'd never say. Like when a guy tells a girl he owns her. I know we've laughed about it before, but holy shit. He pulls back and holds me captive with an intense stare. I've never wanted to say anything like I wanted to say those things to you while I was inside you. It took everything I had not to. Colleen Hoover, just give us BDSM. Give us some filth. Go on, I know you want to. Ben threatens to move to New York to be with Fallon. It's not a threat to her, but it sure is to me. The reviews for this book are incredible. You can tell when I get bored of doing my scripts. Fun fact, I was trying to do Matthew Perry's autobiography last night. I shouldn't say things like this because if I get through it and I realise, it's not what people were saying of it, then it'll probably see the light of day. But I was getting bored pretty early on because I was getting distracted by listening to the Beatles at 4 a.m. That's not exaggerating. 3 a.m. And then I realised, because I don't think I knew that Twist and Shout was by the Beatles, but then who did I think it was by? I don't know. I've realised that I'm a big old liar because I do like the Beatles. I think I like a lot of their earlier stuff.
Their early work was a little too new wave for my taste.
But I like the Beatles. I've been lying to myself this whole time. Anyway, probably to make myself seem more interesting. The reviews for this book are incredible, by the way. This might be the worst romance book I've read in my entire life from Daniela. This is on Goodreads. Laurel. What the ever-loving fuck is this book? 1 star. Love it. I pretty much refuse to read anything with heterosexual themes or elements. I don't agree with the lifestyle and I won't ever agree with it. This is what I believe and it will always be what I believe. It makes me, personally, uncomfortable. I don't hate people living in that lifestyle, but I also don't want it shoved in my face. Okay? 10 out of 10 reviews. Back to the story. Fallon wakes early and has morning pizza with Jordan, who tells her that Ben has an agent interested in his book. Ben wakes up and tells Jordan to stay living with him so he can raise his future nephew here. I don't want to be the reason he doesn't finish what he started out to do. Years from now, he'll look back on tonight and he'll wonder if he made the wrong choice. If maybe our lives would have still turned out the same and we would still end up together. But by waiting 3 years, he would also have met his goal of writing the book he promised to write. Sorry, what agent is going to wait around for a further 3 years for a boy with no previous published work to finish a book? Rubbish. Fallon calls a cab. Ben. Fallon refuses to give Ben her number and her cab arrives. I've never wanted to use physical force on a girl before, but I want to push her to the ground and hold her there until the cab drives away. Colleen Hoover, are you okay, hun? No, Fallon, you can't just agree to love me and then take it back because you think then take it back because you think it's not what's best for me. That's not how this works. She's startled by my words. I think she expected me to let her go without a fight, but she's not the kind of girl you choose your battles for. She's the kind of girl you fight to the death for. They've not even spent an entire week together, by the way. It's like a permanent honeymoon phase. I laugh, but my laugh is short and humorless. Meant to be together? Are you listening to yourself? This isn't one of your fairy tales, Fallon. This is real life, and in the real world, you have to bust your ass for the happily ever after. To be fair, his brother just died in a random car accident, so maybe don't tempt fate this way. What if one of them randomly died? How would they find out? They wouldn't until a year later. They'd regret not giving it a proper go. And I also do think, in hindsight, I don't like this Ben guy, but in hindsight, she supposedly loves him. Yeah. His brother's just died. Her reasoning for this is if they talk on the phone, he's just going to be thinking of her. He's not going to think about his book and he's not going to think of Jordan and her pregnancy and his nephew. His brother just died. Just talk on Facebook. Don't leave it a year. I can't believe that two people, I can't believe that this would actually be a thing. If two people supposedly love each other, but they're only meeting up once a year and then something like this, something catastrophic like this happens to one of their lives, I just don't, you would get rid of the... Colleen Hoover, this is stupid. Anyway. Her shoulders drop with her sigh. She gives her head a soft shake. Ben, I'm not walking away from this. I'm not doing anything we didn't agree to the first day we met. I'm the one sticking to the rules here. We agreed on 5 years, and yes, we had a little hiccup upstairs when we almost caved, and I cut her off. A hiccup? I point to the house. Did you just refer to us agreeing to start a relationship as a hiccup? I get it's just forced drama, because you wouldn't, would you? You wouldn't, if someone's family member had just died and you supposedly care about them, you wouldn't just be like, no, right, I'm going to go back to New York now and I'm not giving you my number so you can't grieve with me. What a pair of cheats. They're skipping the hard parts of a relationship to meet up with each other. This book's stupid. I grip her face until my fingers are wrapped around the nape of her neck. Sounds awful, out of and in context. Fallon leaves. 4th November. I have no idea how I'm going to start this conversation. How do I tell him that as soon as I pulled away last year, I knew I'd made the biggest mistake of my life? How do I tell him that I made that last minute decision for his benefit? That I thought if I told him I didn't want to fall in love with him, that I would be helping him in some way? And most important, how do I bring up the fact that I moved back to Los Angeles just for him? Well, not exactly just for him. I did make a huge career change a few months ago. So you spent an entire year avoiding him. Wouldn't you just get, like, these people seem to have disposable income. Wouldn't you just get on a plane a week later and go back? Like, I don't like this guy, but the dude was grieving. And then she's like, nope, see you later. We've got to stick to this. And I really hated this next part of the plot because it's just such forced drama. I really didn't like it. Melodramatic idiots. Is this romantic for people, this forced drama? Because it just sounds annoying for me. Fallon has moved back to LA to become an acting teacher. Ben arrives with the baby, his nephew. He seems fine but keeps avoiding taking her hand. Oliver looks at Ben like he's his dad. Ben referred to himself and Jordan as a we, and they keep Oliver's baby monitor on at night, which means they share a bedroom. I suck in a breath the moment I feel my entire world turn on its axis. I grip the table when the clarity hits. I feel like such an idiot. Don't you dare. Fallon runs to the bathroom to have a little bit of heartbreak. Of course, Ben the freak follows her there, and Fallon cries. Ben: this isn't how I meant for her to find out. I was going to tell her, and soon, but I wanted to ease into it. Not that I expected her to be heartbroken over the fact I'm dating Jordan. In fact, I thought the chances of her being happy for me were greater than the chances of her being upset by it. I never expected this reaction from her. Why is she acting like she cares this much when she made it clear last year she wasn't interested in anything more than the arrangement we made? The arrangement is stupid in the first place, but also Jordan is a girl that he referred to as his sister because she was with his dead brother for so long that she felt like part of the family. His dead brother's wife. His dead brother's wife. They've been, keep it in the family, right? Colleen Hoover, this is unforgivable nonsense. The only thing that matters to Fallon is the unexpected twist in our story, one neither of us saw coming, one neither of us even wanted, and one she's partly responsible for. I have to remember that. As much as she's hurting right now, she hurt me just as much, if not worse, when she chose New York over me. Yes, of course, her leaving naturally meant you had to fuck your dead brother's wife. Colleen Hoover, what is this awful man logic? Thanks, I hate it. Are you in love with her? She immediately covers her mouth with her hands, shaking her head in regret for asking the question. Please don't answer that. She walks toward me and drops her eyes to the floor. I need to leave, she says as she passes me. I back up until I'm pressed against the door, holding it shut. Not like this. Not like this. Recreating the Matrix. Please, don't leave yet. Give me a chance to explain. I can't let her leave without her understanding the whole situation. I love it when I'm so upset that a bloke barricades the door to stop me from leaving. Explain what? She says quietly. Do you want me to stand here and listen to you explain how you didn't mean to fall in love with your dead brother's wife? All right, firstly, he's not actually in love with her. And he could have just said, I'm not in love with her. We've just been banging our misery out with each other, which is still grim because it's your dead brother's wife and someone you considered a sister. Falling in love with your dead brother's wife. Do you expect me to argue with you when you tell me it isn't just about what you want anymore, but about what's better for your nephew? Do you expect me to apologise for lying to you last year when I said I didn't want to love you? Each word of the last sentence to leave her mouth is like weights bearing down on me, sinking me to the bottom of a lake. She lied to me? Why is everyone in these books always so stupid? It's giving New Moon, Bella Swan at the end. You were lying to me about not being in love with me. Shut up, all of you freaks. I get it, Ben. It's my fault. I'm the one who walked away last year when you tried to love me. How bad is her self-esteem that she's blaming herself for him banging his dead brother's wife. Oh wait, she only got self-esteem and confidence in the first place because she saw herself through his eyes instead of just learning to accept herself. Good one, Coho. Colleen Hoover. Fallon literally has to escape the bathroom from Ben. She's next to a car, fumbling around her purse. By the time she retrieves her keys, I'm standing next to her. I yank the keys. I hate him. I hate him. Colleen, they just... I yank the keys out of her hands and walk towards my car, which is parked right next to hers. Ben, she yells, give me my keys. The fuck? You can't leave hating me. Shut up. Shut up. Go shag your dead brother's wife. I say, putting the keys... That's what I just said there. I say, putting the keys back in her hand. Not after everything we've been... Why not? You're the one fucking your dead brother's wife. Loses impact on second time around, doesn't it? Who does that? I don't care if he thought that she rejected him. Who does that? His brother is literally rolling in his grave right now. I know that this is a thing that can happen. I know that. I'm not stupid. But it's just you're trying to fill a void with what seems like a good replacement because keeping it in the family. But it's not how it works though, is it? It's not really going to work that way. I'd like to hear a successful story of this situation happening. Anyway, I look past her, too ashamed to make eye contact with her. We still have 2 more years, Fallon. We don't have to end it today. She shakes her head. I know I promised, but I can't. There's no way in hell I'm putting myself through this again. You have no idea what this feels like, she says, holding her hand to her chest. Actually, Fallon, I know exactly what it feels like. I called this emotional manipulation on his end at the time because I don't like him. But again, in retrospect, he was grieving, and if she cared about him, she should have been there for him instead of thinking about a book, this thing that doesn't even exist yet anyway. She has no idea how heartbroken she left me. I don't really care, sorry. I don't know how this book has so many supporters. It has a happily ever after. Okay, bear that in mind. Ben stops thinking about himself enough to notice that Fallon has a car because she drove to the restaurant, and she tells him that she moved back. Now that Oliver is sound asleep in the car next to us and no longer in my arms, I pull Fallon to me. I wrap my arms around her desperately, needing to feel her against me. I close my eyes and try to think of words that will fix this, but the only words that come are all the things I shouldn't say. How did we let this happen? Sticking your dick inside someone you used to call your sister isn't a strong start. Fallon tries to pull away, but I hold her tight. Colleen Hoover, what is your damage? Babe, what is your damage? Talk to me. Do you want the number to my therapist? Fallon should fuck Ian just to get back at Ben. I don't even care. I'm so toxic. She tries to push past me, but I grab her face and try to plead with her. I can see the resolve in her eyes before I even speak. Please, I whisper. Not again. We can't make it through this if you walk away again. It's always the people who fuck up the most who put the onus of rebuilding the relationship onto the other person. I see it on TV constantly, and by TV, I mean episodes of Made in Chelsea. Someone cheats, and then will say, do you know what, me doing that made me realise how I felt about you, my girlfriend of 2 years, and how I actually don't want to... I had to stick my dick in someone else to realise that I actually don't want to let you go, and I actually do love you. Harvey and Emily. We can come back from this stronger than ever, as long as you don't give up on us, because... me sticking my dick in someone else shouldn't be a deal breaker. It's literally every plot point to Made in I know myself so well. I hate it though. I can't stand it. It's so eye-roll worthy whenever one of the idiots on Made in Chelsea says that. She looks up at me vexed. You didn't give me a choice this time, Ben. You showed up in love with someone else. He's not in love though. He should have just said, I'm not in love with her, because that, to this stupid Fallon girl's mind, would have made all the difference. You didn't, but... obviously, Colleen Hoover can't have them breaking the whole meet of why it's so contrived. You share another woman's bed. Your hands touch someone who isn't me. Your lips make promises against skin that isn't mine. Who the fuck sounds like this in an argument? Watch any Made in Chelsea, Geordie Shore, Towie. Whenever they're all arguing and screaming at each other, none of them sound like this. They sound like, what's this rumour then? Fuck off with your fucking fringe. Megan McKenna. Love her. In that one clip that I saw one time. She can't get up for good. I grip the door of the car and lean into the open window. Fuck the book, Fallon. It was never about the book. It was about you. It always was. She stares at me, silent. And then she rolls up her window and pulls away, never once slowing down as I pound on the back of her car, chasing her until I can't anymore. He's running after a car whilst his baby is just left alone in the other car. Fallon says she's never coming back. Boy, I wish. I went from being indifferent and mildly annoyed to hating this book within this one chapter. 5th November 9th. I don't wish ill on him. Don't worry, babe. I do. I'll get a voodoo doll out. Don't you worry. Fallon is now dating someone called Teddy, but he wears pants with embroidered whales on them, so fuck him, am I right? We've only been out 4 times, I tell her. I'm not that easy. You had sex with Ben on the 3rd date, she says in retort. I hate that she brought up Ben, but I guess when you're discussing your sex life, the only guy you've ever slept with is surely going to be part of the conversation. I said this. I bet she never has sex with anyone else and it's treated as a special thing because sex always has to be this puritanical and sacred thing for women, but blokes are allowed to fuck their dead brothers' wives. I never even said where they are. They're at a nightclub. They get drunk. And then Ben shows up, because of course he does. Piss off, dead brother-wife shagger. Nice to meet you, Fallon, Ben says, clasping my hand with both of his. He makes a quick brush of his thumbs over my wrist, and the contact of his skin on mine is scorching. Oh, I want to die. When he releases my hand, I look down at my wrist, sure it left a mark. Oh, go text and drive. You can tell I wasn't enjoying this. Ben is pretending that he's doing a paper on couples in the middle of a club. Okay. Ben pops his neck with his hand. I'm studying the probability of soulmates. Theodore chuckles. Soulmates? That's graduate level work? God help us. Ben raises an eyebrow. You don't believe in soulmates? Theodore is better than Ben in one sentence. She's not here with me, Ben says. In fact, I was actually stood up by her today. Waited for over 4 hours, but she never showed. Pathetic. Amber and Glenn arrive, so Fallon goes to the toilet and considers punching Ben in the face. I wholeheartedly endorse this message. Guy is hard to hate when he's had such a positive impact on my life. Shut up and stand up for yourself. No sooner than I have the bathroom door open, a hand grips my arm and pulls me further down the hallway, away from the crowd. I don't even have to look at him to know it's him. My whole body feels the familiar hum of electricity that moves between us anytime we're together. My back is against the wall. My hands are beside my head. His eyes are boring into mine. I'm bored. How serious is it with whale pants back there? I hate this, and I'm beginning to hate Colleen Hoover. Stop having men manhandle women. It's not sexy. Sincerely me, though people out there must be finding this erotic. Otherwise it wouldn't be so prevalent within the genre. Maybe it's just me, but I'm wrong. Oh, women having autonomy over their bodies. Ugh, aren't I an arsehole? That's nice, Ben. I need to get back to my date. I try to push past him, but he leans in closer, sandwiching me against the wall. His forehead meets the side of my head. He lets out a sigh and, feeling the breath fall from his lips and rush through my hair, forces me to squeeze my eyes shut. Don't be like that, he whispers into my ear. I've been through hell today trying to find you. Bro really stalked her once he realised that she wasn't going to show up to their date that she had already said she wasn't going to go to anymore. Colleen Hoover is trying to normalise abusive behaviour as romance because he cares. No, he's a freak. F off. I cringe from the way his words twist my stomach into knots. He slides his arms around me and pulls me into him. He feels stronger, more defined, even more like a man. Love some manhandling. Come home with me, he whispers. No, Fallon. I shake my head back and forth with immense effort in order to ensure I don't accidentally nod. No, Ben, no. This past year has been the hardest year of my life. You can't expect me just to fall back into step with you because you showed up here tonight. Yeah, piss off, Ben. He starts touching her ass, and then she's all, my body craves him. No, your body craves self-respect and Jesus. Go to church. He pushes her into, I promise I'm not a Christian. I don't get it. It's just the religious propaganda of growing up in a non-religious primary school. I don't know. He pushes her into a storage room so they make out. And this is the bit that Colleen Hoover rewrote, as originally Ben straight up assaulted Fallon. You can find people talking about online, text of it somewhere. Fallon, he kept trying to, go under her pants with his hands, and Fallon told him to stop trying to touch her, and he just shoved his hand down his knickers anyway and was like, say it again. Ugh. She's written it so Fallon enjoys it instead, because Colleen Hoover, you suck. How are you going to miss the mark that badly? I don't know. I need time, I think. I don't know. I don't feel capable of making this kind of decision right now. Oh yeah, she's drunk and he's sober, by the way, so that's great. He's pushed all of this onto her. No wonder she feels overwhelmed. He sucks. Who thinks this is romantic? Go to hell if you do. Flush your head down the toilet. Amber bumps into them, so Fallon goes back to Theodore. I force a quick smile and a nod, but I give him nothing more, considering Ben looks like he's about to crawl over the table and rip Theodore's arm away from my body. You shagged your dead brother's wife. Rip your own arm off, and your dick for that matter. How could anyone forgive this? I don't care if they were all technically single. He's become a father to this baby. He's going to have to see the baby still. How would Fallon put up, and that also means seeing the baby's mum, and Fallon would naturally become a part of that. Just have to put up with that. She's a wet wipe. Like, I wouldn't like that. Let me finish, Ben says, holding up a finger in warning. Because you're about to hate me. I lied. I'm not writing a paper. He points at Glenn. This guy told me earlier today where to show up tonight so that I could find the girl I'm supposed to spend the rest of my life with. And I'm sorry, but that girl just so happens to be your date. And I'm in love with her. Like, really in love with her. Crippling, debilitating, paralyzing love. So please accept my sincerest apologies because she's coming home with me tonight. I hope. I pray. Ben shoots me an endearing look. Please. Otherwise, this speech will make me look like a complete fool and that won't be good when we tell our grandkids about this. He holds out his hand for me to take, but I'm as frozen in place as poor Theodore is. Glenn is an asshole, confirmed. How are you going to have kids with Fallon? Right. How are you going to explain to your kids that their cousin is kind of like your child as well because you were shagging their cousin's mum? Wait, their auntie. You incestuous little pigs. Theodore puts Ben in a headlock. Let me just read directly from the screen for this next bit, right? Because I clearly had a lot to say and a lot of feelings. Normalizing abusive and toxic behavior pisses me off in books. Every reality show I see shows men inordinately cheating on women more than they cheat on men. And if women in reality shows do cheat, they are far more vilified than the men are. It's so normalized for men to cheat and women to have to put up with it because they are men with hormones and needs, as if women don't also have hormones and sexual needs. As if we also can't have sex for pleasure nor separate sex and love. Any female writer or producer that plays up to this unbalanced nonsense can go to hell. In fact, I'm convinced female writers who normalize bad male behavior as romance have some sort of humiliation kink. This is the gender pay gap that people should be talking about. The gender sex gap. Amber punches Glenn in the shoulder. You told Ben where we were going to be tonight, she hisses. Glenn rubs his arm. He showed up at our apartment today looking for Fallon. Amber scoffs. So you just told him where she would be? Why would you do that? He's funny, Glenn says, as if that's a legit defense. Yeah, funny makes up for putting his dick inside of his dead brother's wife. Bro, if there's an afterlife, that reunion is going to be awkward. Also, more men supporting other men's crap. Love to see it. Fallon tells Theodore that she's not interested. Theodore cocks his head as if he's shocked by what he just heard. Figure it out? He shakes his head. I don't have time for this shit. He starts to walk in the opposite direction, but he's still within earshot when he mutters, You aren't even that pretty. I'm still processing the insult. It's immature, but he didn't mean for her to hear that. I'm still processing the insult when I see Ben sprint past me. Before, still in earshot, he's within earshot when he mutters. Ben sprints past. How did Ben hear? Sorry. How was it muttering then? What force contrived nonsense? Ben sprint past me. Before my eyes can even adjust, his fist is flying. I see Glenn rush to intervene. But wait, no, Glenn also punches Theodore. Oh good, woman defended. All is forgiven then. Hey Fallon, why don't you let him shag your mum next? Because it's no big deal, is it? Even Amber chucks her shoe at Theodore as if Theodore's the problem. She yells, Fallon deserves better than you. Yeah, she deserves someone who can't be trusted around women he proclaims to be sisters to him. The three of you, I say to Ben, insinuating that just because he stood up for me doesn't mean I'm automatically going home to his place. I'll need you to drop me off at my apartment. Amber groans, then brushes my shoulder as she passes. Just forgive him already. Fuck off, Amber. Glenn found a member of the male species he actually likes, and if you don't forgive Ben, you'll break Glenn's heart. Oh, yeah, okay, so she should forgive him for a bloke. Colleen Hoover, why do you hate women? So everyone just manipulates Fallon into going home with Ben like that's the most normal thing in the world. Can't end a chapter without Fallon crying. As we pull out the parking lot, I stare out my window because I don't want the three of them to see the tears in my eyes. Because yes, hearing Theodore insult me didn't only hurt my feelings, it was easily one of the most embarrassing moments of my life. Really? What, him muttering something a little bit unpleasant as he... That's one of the most embarrassing... But shouted, didn't she? But knowing these three defended me without a second thought almost makes the insult worth it. Go away, Ben. I don't want to hear from Ben. He's stupid and I hate him. I moved out right after Christmas last year. Ian and I let Jordan and Oliver have the house. I can feel the tensing of her hand in mine just at the mention of Jordan's name. I hate that. I hate that I put that there, and I hate that it's always going to be in the back of her head for the rest of our life. Like, why should she have to put up with that shit? Why? Because whether she wants it or not, Jordan is Oliver's mother and Oliver is like a son to me. They'll always be in my life no matter what. Told you. Told you. What a boatload of baggage. Told you. I mean, and he says that now. Right. But what about when Jordan inevitably, because Oliver's still young. How is he? How's he doing? How is he today? Genki desu ka? He's like a toddler, right? So he's 2 years old. How is it going to be when, say Jordan meets a man 2 months after this, and that man is fully ready and committed to be with her and the child? Oliver would start to see the most prominent male figure in his life as his father, because he's 2 years old. Yeah, 2-year-olds, they have a concept of mum and dad, but can you remember things that you got up to when you were 2 years old? Not really. So all I'm saying is, how long would this little strange arrangement last? I would love to see a bloke enter that situation, be interested in this girl, and she's like, oh yeah, no, my husband died and then I hooked up with his brother for almost a year, so my son now sees his brother as his dad. I think most men would run from the hills from that, to be honest. Anyway, what do I know? To be fair, Jordan's done all right out of this. She's got a free house. Fair play. Maybe that was her plan all along. Girl boss. But then when I showed up that day, the last thing I expected was for you to be hurt by that. And the second you figured out that I'd been seeing Jordan, I could see in your... These time skips are just... It is just cheating, isn't it? Because she would be most heartbroken a few days after this altercation happened between the two. And we don't see any of that. We just hear, it was the hardest year of my life. But we don't see it. It's all told and not shown. It's cheating. I could see in your eyes how much you really did love me, and it was one of the worst moments of my life, Fallon. One of the worst fucking moments, and I can still feel the wound your tears left in my chest every time I breathe. I don't care about you or your stupid, pathetic chest. She pulls away from my shoulder and sniffs. That's the only thing not right in my life, Ben. Everything else is perfect. I have 2 of the best friends in the world. I love school. I love my job. I have 1.5 great parents, she says the last sentence with a laugh. But the only thing that makes me sad, the biggest thing, is that I think about you every second of every day and I don't know how to get over... Shag someone else. Just try it. She's not... Try it. Try it. Don't, I beg her. Please don't get over me. She shrugs with a half-hearted smile. I can't. I tried, but I think I'd have to go to AA or something. You're just part of my chemical makeup now, I think. I give up with these idiots. I'm blaming Twilight for this. I laugh and shake my head. I'm not. I just really need to tell you that I love you, but I feel like I should warn you before I do that. Okay, she says. Warn me about what? That by agreeing to love me back, you're taking on a huge responsibility, because Oliver is going to be part of my life forever. And I'm not talking like an uncle and a nephew, but like he's mine. Birthday parties and baseball games. All of this baggage. But of course, she's like, tee-hee, because Colleen Hoover is a sadomasochist. Do you know how much work toddlers are? And this girl, how old are they? Like 21? And this 21-year-old is just like, I'm fine with that. You see him every day, so I'll be seeing him every... How much hard work toddlers are. Piss off. She laughs and cries at the same time, and I press my lips to hers, wanting to remember this kiss more than any other kiss I've given her. Excuse me, you are still driving, you absolute lobotomites. Oh, actually they pulled over, so I take back everything except the lobotomites. So technically, we've only spent about 28 hours total together since we met, she says. I don't know what to do with this information other than hate it. Morons. That's more than enough time to know if you love someone, I say. It isn't. But go ahead, Colleen Hoover. Continue to shit all over these pages. She bites her lip to stop her grin. I like your logic. You know how much I dislike insta-love. Oh, it was still insta-love, I tell her, but ours was legit. Insta-love is bad, but not if we do it, because we're special. What drivel. It doesn't take 10 seconds before I have her on her back and I'm buried deep inside of her. I have never been less turned on in my life. Fallon wakes up early and goes to find a shirt, but she finds instead Ben's manuscript. She takes it. She wants to find out why Kyle punched him all those years ago. Kyle looks away, running his hands down his face in frustration. When he turns around again, I'm not prepared for what happens. He pushes me hard and I slam into the wall behind me. His hands are pressed against my shoulders. He's pinning me against the wall. Does she know Ben? Does she have any idea that you're the one who started that fire? That you're the reason she almost died? I knew this twist already. That's why I did this book review. The cause of all her problems is this man. Round of applause. Fallon is in denial and thinks Ben is fictionalizing the events to capitalize on her trauma. She decides to read the manuscript from the very beginning. The positive reviews for this book, as in November 9, says it has a wonderful message about forgiveness. Oh boy. Fallon freaks out naturally and calls a cab. Ben wakes up. I want to laugh because Benton James Kessler isn't a writer. He's an actor, a master of deception who just completed a 4-year-long performance. For the first time, I don't see him as the Ben I fell in love with, the Ben who single-handedly changed my life. Right now, I see him only as a stranger, someone I know nothing about. Well, you have only spent 28 hours together. I have no idea who he is. I have no idea what his motive has been for these past few years. I have no idea what he's capable of. Imagine if the ending was she ran away to the police and it was a cautionary tale about the folly of insta-love instead. How much better would that be? Ben, I whisper, my hands pressed flat against the wall behind me. Please tell me what I read isn't true. Please tell me I'm not your fucking plot twist. My words pull out the one expression I was hoping I wouldn't see. Regret. I taste bile again. I clench my stomach. Oh God. So he's written an autobiographical account of their love story, which at the beginning includes him setting the house fire that almost killed Fallon. Yeah. I'm sorry, but who in universe would read this story and be happy about it? Oh, he started a fire that almost killed a girl and then he dated her afterwards, lying to her the entire time. How romantic. Give me a break, Colleen Hoover. He wouldn't get an agent for this. He would get jail time. My shoes. I want out. I want out. I want out. I reach the door and slide the deadbolt to the left, but his hand cups mine and his chest meets my back, pressing me against the door. Time for some more manhandling and trapping from a bloke that she is scared is gonna kill her. I squeeze my eyes shut when I feel his breath against the back of my neck. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. His words are as desperate as the grip he has on me when he spins me around to face him. He's wiping away my tears and his own begin to form in his eyes. I'm so sorry. Please don't go. I won't fall for this. I won't let him fool me again. I push against him, but he grips my wrists, holding them to his chest as he presses his forehead against mine. I love you, Fallon. God, I love you so much. Please don't leave me. Please. Whilst doing this, I could actually feel my blood pressure rising. How can I get the romance genre regulated by a government body? This is unacceptable. Why is this type of book never getting burned in those book burning things? Why is it only the good ones who have to suffer? Huh? Fallon gets mad and is all, you don't love me actually, and then she escapes. I swing open the door and climb inside. I tell the driver my address, but by the time the driver enters it into my GPS, Ben is at the car. Before I notice the window is down, he reaches his hand inside and covers the button that rolls it up. His eyes are pleading. I hate this guy more than I hate Edward. At least he had the decency to leave and stay away for an entire book. He passes her the rest of the manuscript, but she tosses them out the window and drives off. Unfortunately, we don't end there. 6th November 9th. Fallon. It's November 9th. Again. Fallon is all by herself, ignoring everyone. I've also reserved it as the only day I'll allow myself to think about the fire, to think about Ben, to think about all the things I wasted on him, because no one is worth that much heartache. No excuse is good enough to justify what he did to me. But she goes back on this, which is why, when I left his apartment last year, I drove straight to the police station and filed a restraining order against him. I will say, though she goes back on it, this is a very rare moment of logic that I never see other female... Who the hell is ringing me? A video I don't think so. I never see other female leads do in these types of books. So, there's that. I thought about seeing a therapist. I thought about telling my mum about him and his responsibility for the fire. I even thought about talking to my dad about him, but it's hard to bring him up when most of the time I'm trying to pretend he never existed. The rare moment of logic is very quickly undone by this, because this is something you would need therapy for. You thought you were in love with this guy for 4 years, and you've never spent more than 30 hours with him, or 48 hours, however long it was. Right, that in itself needs a lot of unpacking in therapy. But then it turns out that he almost had you killed and ruined your life. Okay. I reach over and turn off the lamp next to my couch. As I'm making my way towards the bedroom, there's a knock on my front door. No one is at the front door except for a letter and a box. She got a restraining order, and it is still not enough for men to realise when to fuck off. Knowing they get back together in the end, Colleen Hoover, I do not forgive you for trying to normalise stalking and abuse. It's just telling people that if you just keep trying, She will relent eventually. Persistence beats resistance. That's this book. I'm so mad at it. When you left last year, you left with my soul in your hands and my heart in your teeth. And I knew I would never get either of them back. You can keep them. I don't really need them anymore. The emotional manipulation. Boo-hoo, poor Ben, says no one. She leaves the manuscript on her table and goes to bed. The next morning, her mother is there, crying because she read Ben's manuscript. Who do any of these characters think they are? Personal privacy? Who? I'm not going to pretend that I know what you've gone through, but after reading those pages, I can assure you that you aren't the only one who is scarred in that fire. Just because he chose not to show you his scars doesn't mean they don't exist. She picks up the box and sets it on my lap. Here they are. He's put his scars on full display for you, and you need to show him the respect he showed you by not turning away from them. She doesn't need to do anything, you old bat. How are women going to support other men over their own daughters? I despise this. I despise the meddling for every other character to try to get them together. I can feel a stress-induced heart attack coming along, and it's all your fault, Colleen Hoover. She delivers this bombshell, the mum, and just leaves. Leaves her daughter on the anniversary of the fire, the day after, I suppose, of the fire that almost killed her, clearly choosing to side with some stalker she has never met over her own daughter. Go fuck yourself. She reads the manuscript. Boo-hoo. Ben is complaining about his mother being dead. Don't worry, you can have Fallon's mother as a replacement, clearly. Maybe you can fuck her too, because boundaries mean nothing. This is meant to be a romance novel. This is how Google Books describes it. Crave presents the ultimate book boyfriend experience with this beautiful 4-color illustrated edition of November 9, the unforgettable love story between a writer and his unexpected muse from the beloved New York Times bestselling author Colleen Hoover. Where is the romance? It is just 300 pages of Fallon getting shat on by everyone for no good reason. Ben's mother had committed suicide when he was younger. Just feels like emotional manipulation to make me feel bad for Ben, but it's not going to work on me because I have a heart of stone. My mother would be pissed that I'm not crying right now. I'm sure attention played at least a small role in her decision. She loved attention, and not in a bad way. It's just a fact. Ah yes, Colleen, because the old suiciders are just attention seekers isn't harmful at all, nor based in fact, considering you have to be, alive to appreciate receiving attention. I digress. Ben snoops through his dead mother's emails to find that the man behind her suicide he thinks is Fallon's father. Whatever. Apparently, Ben's mother was in love with Fallon's father. So Ben finds Fallon's father's address and drives to his house. He watches Donovan receive a phone call, assuming it's about his dead mum, and Donovan is distraught but goes inside. Ben gets mad that Donovan didn't beat up his pristine car, so Ben sets it on fire. Ben drives off. He notices that the fire is larger than it should be. He goes home and has a panic attack to his brother, Kyle. Remember Kyle? The one whose wife he fucks when he dies? He tells Kyle the truth. The news on TV shows that Fallon was injured in the fire. We stand in front of the TV, soaking up news reports that break in between infomercials. At a little after 1 a.m, we learn that the girl was taken to a burn centre in South Bay. 10 minutes later, we learn she's in critical condition. At 1:30 a.m, we learn that she has suffered 4th-degree burns over 30% of her body. At 1:45, we learn that she is expected to survive but will undergo extensive reconstructive surgery and rehabilitation. At 1:50, reporters state that the owner of the home admitted spilling fuel near a car parked outside his garage. Investigators state that they have no reason to believe the fire was caused intentionally, but a complete investigation will follow up to corroborate the homeowner's claims. Right, so Ben did this, effectively ruining her career and her life at the time, and her relationship with her father, but Fallon's mother felt bad for Ben and manipulated Fallon into reading the manuscript. Everyone leave me alone. Kyle covers for Ben and tells him to forget that this ever happened. First this, then texting whilst driving. Do any men in any Colleen Hoover books make good decisions ever? Fallon finds it within herself to forgive her father, knowing more context about his life. Even though his father was going on about how she was basically undateable, whatever. She texts him and then continues the manuscript. Do you think Mum thought of that? I asked, sitting up on the bed again. Ian shakes his head in frustration, his hands drop to his hips. Thought about what? That her decision to kill herself would force one of you to give up your dream, that you would have to move back home to take care of your brother. Ian shakes his head, confused. Of course she thought about that. I laugh. No, she didn't. She's a selfish fucking bitch. His jaw hardens. Stop. I hate her, Ian. I'm glad she's dead. I'm glad I was the one... Trigger warning? And I'm glad I was the one who found her, because now I'll always have the visual of how the black hole in her face matched the black hole in her heart. Great guy. Ian went to read the letter, the suicide note. Their mother didn't die over some bloke. She took her life because she had terminal ovarian cancer and she didn't want to wither away or bankrupt them and have all of their money and savings spent on medical bills. So yes, Ben ruined Fallon's life over an incorrect assumption. My arm dangles over the side of the bed and I can tell by the way my hand lies across the carpet that the bed doesn't have a frame or box springs. It's just a mattress on the floor. I'm on my stomach. There's a sheet draped halfway over me and I'm face down on the pillow. I hate these moments when I wake up too discombobulated to know where I am or who might be on the bed next to me. He told Fallon he'd had sex with less than 5 girls at this point. Why is he trying to act like he's top shagger of the year? Oh, I hate these moments. I just wake up and like anyone's next to me in bed. Shut up. You're not Russell Brand. Calm down. I tried to count how many times this has happened when I've gotten so drunk that I can barely remember anything the next day. I'm guessing at least 5 times this year. Judges you in British. He woke up at Jordan's, so I called her for help. We didn't. God no, she wouldn't do that. I, on the other hand, seem to have no control over the things I do when I get in that state, but at least I called her before I did something stupid. She and Kyle have been together long enough that she's like a sister to me, and I would trust her not to tell Kyle, but the question still remains, why was I naked? In her bed. She's just like a sister to me. That's why we had sex as soon as my brother popped his clogs. She stares at me just as long as it takes for her words to make sense in my head. She sounds like my mother, and the thought hits me hard. She sounds like my mother, which is why we had sex as soon as my brother popped his clogs. He goes to his mother's grave, which he has never done before, but sees Donovan replacing flowers there, which he has clearly done several times before. He follows Donovan to the restaurant and spies on his convo with Fallon. I shouldn't be listening on their private conversation. I spend the next few moments trying to focus on my laptop that I brought with me, but I'm just scrolling through screens, pretending to work, all while listening to what an inconsiderate prick her father is. Yeah, he's the prick, all right. I don't think you have the moral high ground here. Ben sees the scars on Fallon that are his fault and is chagrined by this. I don't hear what she says because all I see is red. I can't believe this man, a father who is supposed to defend and support his daughter in the wake of a challenge, is saying these things to her. Maybe he's practicing tough love, but the girl has been through enough. Yeah, because of you. It's your fault, little sloths. Shh. You don't get to be on a moral high horse because her dad is a knob. I'm sliding out of the booth, unable to stop myself, but I'll be damned if I allow this girl to spend one more second without someone defending her in the proper way. Save your white knight complex. Back to Fallon. I make a new pile with the pages I've already read. I stare down at the manuscript in disbelief. I know I should be angry that he's lied to me for so long, but being in his head is somehow justifying his behaviour to me. And not only that, but it's also justifying my father's behaviour. So much for his behaviour being inexcusable. Words mean nothing. There's a letter from Ben. So I swore to myself that on the days I spend with you, I would allow myself to enjoy it. I wouldn't think about the fire. I wouldn't think about what I did to you. For one day each year, I wanted to be this guy who was falling in love with this girl because everything about you captivated me. That's all right then, isn't it? One day a year, he doesn't have to think about the fire or what he did to her. It's all right. It's fine. That's one of my biggest fears. That you spent the past year assuming I told you more than one lie, but I haven't. The only lie I've ever told you is the one I omitted, the part where I was responsible for the fire. Every word that came out of my mouth in your presence beyond that was the absolute truth. When I said you were beautiful, I meant it. It was just one lie, the most important lie of all, but still, just a single lie. Shut up. Do you even hear how is this not satire? I'm not going to act like I won't be sitting at the restaurant for hours upon end, hoping you walk through those doors, because that's exactly where I'll be. And if you don't show up today, I'll be there next year, and the next. Every 9th of November, I'll wait for you, hoping one day you'll be able to find enough forgiveness to love me again. But if that doesn't happen and you never show, I'll still be grateful to you until the day that I die. They've spent less than 48 hours with each other in total. I feel lightheaded, I think, from the blood rush in anger, in rage, I don't know. This is way too much baggage, mate. Just go on Tinder, shag someone else, and then find someone to date. I can't believe that her mum read this and was on his side. There were 83,456 words in the manuscript I dropped off at her front door last night. There are roughly 23,000 words in the first 5 chapters before she would even gotten to the note. She could have easily read 23,000 words in 3 hours. If she started the manuscript right after I left it off, she would have finished the first section by 3 a.m. Ben, have you ever considered being a normal fucking person? He's waiting for her. Of course he is. I'm surprised the restaurant has let me wait it out here in this booth for so long. I've been here since the crack of dawn this morning in hopes that she stayed up and read the manuscript last night. Now it's almost midnight. That's a good 18 hours I've spent occupying this booth. That's going to be one big tip. Can't get comfortable. This is absolutely normal behaviour, not alarming at all. He sees her in the parking lot. She's smiling. All is forgiven. Ruined my life over a stupid, reckless, inconsiderate mistake? No problem. Don't worry about it. You were 16, she says. You had been through one of the worst things a child could ever experience. Your actions from that night weren't because you were a bad person, Ben. It was because you were a scared teenage boy, and sometimes people make mistakes. You've carried so much guilt for what you did and so long. You can't ask for my forgiveness because there's nothing to forgive. If anything, I'm here for your forgiveness because I know your heart, Ben, and your heart is only capable of love. I should have recognized that last year when I doubted you. I should have given you the chance to explain it then. If I had listened to you, then we could have avoided an entire year of heartache. So for that, I'm sorry. So sorry, and I hope you can forgive me. Be right back, headbutt in the wall. I grin as I lower my mouth to hers. Spoiler alert, they live happily ever after. And then I kiss her. And it's a 12, not the end. Far from it. This book is a 0. This is a comment from Caleb Joseph's video about the Colleen Hoover thing. The problem with this sort of stuff is that the meta-narrative supports the abuser. You can write some effed up toxic relationships, but the majority of the characters should recognize this behavior for what it is. You can write the victim as unaware, manipulated, or even cooperating freely with their abuser. But there needs to be some awareness represented in the story that the behavior isn't acceptable. That this is a tale of a toxic relationship, not a healthy romance. And I agree. If it was marketed as, I don't know, because the ending is so happily ever after, so the ending would have to change. And then if it was marketed as like a dark, toxic mess, I wouldn't have made this video. But this is a joke, Colleen Hoover. I am not impressed. I do not like this. Please stop. That is all for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, remember to like, comment, subscribe. I make new videos whenever I feel like it. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Third Channel, podcast channel, etc., etc. I've got more content coming out for this month. Really going to make the most of that December CPM. And yeah, see you guys next time, I suppose. Hope you enjoyed. Bye.